It's a great hook that I recommend anybody have, where it's, hey, I'm looking to learn, like, what would you be looking for to sell your property? Like, what interests you in selling your property? I'm just here to learn and get your advice on why would you work with somebody like me? If you come at it with advice, you're going to get way more people that are open to meeting with you. And all you want is that face-to-face. Again, real estate people are exceptional when it comes to face-to-face. These are really intelligent EQ individuals. But how do we get as many of these face-to-face interactions? Because if that happens, good things are going to happen.
This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odom and Steven Silverman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odom, along with Steven Silverman. A little bit of a different discussion today, Steven. It's not so much Florida-centric, but we are talking about sort of higher level marketing related stuff.
Yeah, so, we're a Florida show and we live in Florida, but what we talk about today is all around us. And we just live in an environment where there's just so much noise and we're inundated all the time with marketing and with phone calls and texts and emails. That how do you break through that and become effective at doing business? And that's what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, it's a challenge because most people don't understand how to talk to people, getting into the beginning of a relationship. And this is key for real estate investors. People listen to podcasts know I hate people sending me text messages. I hate it. There's not a method for me with a text to be able to organize that to respond to you. And it feels very personal. You're coming in and you're wanting this and you repeatedly spam me with text. I am not going to do business with you. It's not the way I want to have business done with me. Telephone calls is tough. I've got a busy schedule. I don't like cold calls. I'm not going to take a call in the middle of the day just to have chit chat with you. I don't have time for that. So I am a real estate investor. You're talking to me. I'm also happen to run a property management company and I run a brokerage company. And so, you're talking to me. You're trying to, as a real estate investor, get my attention if you're wanting to buy one of my properties that I own that you're trying to go and, make money off of and whatnot. So I think at least when you're talking to someone like me, then you want to know how to be addressed. And for me, it's email. And, so it's going to be interesting. The individual we're going to have on today is going to talk about how do you communicate on email, how you sequence emails to be able to form relationships with people in an effective way. And, there's a lot of ways to try to market. This is one of them. And the email's free and it can be personal. And it also is given to someone in a controlled manner. It's much better than the other methods I discussed, at least for communicating with me. So, Steven, is there anything you want to add to that?
Eric, you said so much. I don't think I could add to it, but you're right on. I mean, let's go in and learn something about how to communicate and get through to people. Today we have with us Adam Rosen. Adam is an entrepreneur with a heart for supporting fellow business owners. Having led a tech startup that was eventually acquired, Adam learned the ropes of the entrepreneur world hands-on. He led multi-million-dollar real estate sellouts and loves to share his experiences through speaking engagements, podcasts, and coaching small business owners. His primary focus is on helping startups get more sales appointments through cold calls and email startups, through cold calls and his email outreach company. Adam, welcome to the Invest Florida show.
Steve and Eric, I appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, Adam, we really appreciate you investing time with us. I think we need to tell the story from the beginning, which is we connected through one of your email series. And it's important for people to understand. I run 3 companies and I get absolutely bombarded by telephone, by text, by email, with people trying to get my attention. And so for Adam to be able to get my attention and to be able to follow up, there obviously is something to his system. And this is a system we're going to cover today. It's important because you as real estate investors are struggling to get deals and get people's attention. And so the idea here is that we're going to learn from Adam about how he goes about what he does and why it's important for you and your real estate practice trying to find deals, how this works. So Adam, this is a really long, intro from my end, but I just wanted to kind of set the stage so people understood, why we thought it was important to have you on the show.
Yeah, and from the first time we spoke, Eric, the thing that really excites me and has excited me is the opportunity that I've seen with people in real estate is that folks in real estate tend to be people that are great with people. They're great communicators. They're great sellers. They understand the real estate world. They understand how to buy deals. They understand how to sell deals. So that's the good of the people that tend to be in real estate. The challenge, though, is that a lot of people I've come across in real estate, and I was one of them, were not the best when it comes to technology, not the best when it comes to automation, not the best when it comes to AI. And part of it is because so many people in real estate are so good at the people part of real estate and the business part of real estate that we say, hey, you know what, we're great at this. Let's leave some of this other stuff to the side. But if we can get even at a 101 level, knowledgeable when it comes to tech, when it comes to automation, when it comes to AI, it can be the opportunity to get into that blue ocean and to set yourself apart from all the others in the space, because there is a ton of noise that we're all trying to escape from. So that's what always excites me about working with people in real estate when it comes to tech, AI, automation, and cold email.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about, I guess we start with data, right? That's big. Like the first thing is getting the data and then figuring that out. And then your email sequencing is sort of after you've got the data and what you're targeting. So why don't you talk a little bit about your system?
Yeah. So when it comes to cold emailing, because that's my bread and butter. That's what my company does. We do cold email outreach for startups and real estate companies, where we do everything from getting the email list to setting up the inboxes, to writing the emails, to pressing send on those emails, to sending those follow-ups, which is key. We'll get into all that, to managing the inbox, to booking the meeting. So that's kind of the full cycle of what we do as an agency for our customers. So for anybody listening to this, the way I would always look at this when it comes to, can I get more face-to-face meetings? Can I get more phone calls? Can I get more Zoom meetings with my ideal customer? Is number one, do their email addresses exist out there? Some emails are easy to find. Others are a little bit more difficult, but it's out there. There's plenty of data. There's plenty of tools out there to find that. So number one, it's how do we find the contact information? If we can get that contact information, there are proven strategies to get meetings booked, but we first got to find the contact information. So that's really number one.
Yeah. I mean, we just did, I had this conversation with you before we got started. We want to find franchisees that have multiple locations. And it's the challenge with the agency too. It's a challenge with investors. Like they want to find that portfolio that, hey, we get 10 properties out of this deal, not one property. I mean, one property is nice, but man, they're like too many alligators inside of the pond. And so, climbing over each other to get the one fish that's left in the pond. So, the idea is, like, we talk to our agents, and also from our perspective of trying to find those multiple locations is, piercing, that veil. We just did a mailing today and it's 38% bounces. So it's, this is the challenge. It's like getting that data. And you have the added complication with real estate is some of them are trying to hide from you. So they're inside of an LLC, inside of an LLC, inside of an LLC that's based in Delaware. And I know some of this is going to be impossible to get. You say that it's out there and that is possible. It depends on, are you going to spend a day to get one email contact after you're going down multiple rabbit holes. So why don't you talk a little bit about that data gathering and like how you go about it, and where do you start to draw the line and say, that's too much of a rabbit hole, we're not going to go down there?
Yeah, great question. So
Yeah.
first,
And also what the main data sources are, because I know everybody you talk to, I mean, when they want to find out anything, they say, oh, let's go to LinkedIn. But you can't get email addresses on LinkedIn. I mean,
Well, you can.
there's other.
You got to friend them. It's a process.
Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. But people, I know there are people who do a lot of business on LinkedIn, but I haven't. I mean, I find people, and I myself don't respond because I don't even see it when I get a message. So I'm not sure, but everybody always talks about it. Everything's on LinkedIn, but I'd love to learn how that relates to emails.
yeah, so LinkedIn is actually a great source. One of the top ways that we get contact information for our 30 plus customers, even our real estate customers, LinkedIn is a great source of it because there's tools out there where you can scrape that contact information. But the key is, and Eric, you mentioned this before, the 38% bounce rate. Anyone who's listening, please listen to this piece because it is so critical. Many people will buy lists or gather lists themselves. And if there's a bounce rate really above 5%, 5% is high, 38% is astronomical. If we send an email to 1,000 people with a 38% bounce rate, what is going to happen is not only will those emails go into spam, but every email that you send from your inbox, a proposal, a contract, an email to a potential listing that you're gonna work with, whatever it is, there's now a higher likelihood that that's going to end up in spam. So there's tools out there. There's like one of the tools that we use is called Zero Bounce. It'll verify these contacts to increase the likelihood that there are a much lower percentage of bounces. So instead of a 38% bounce rate, maybe there's a 1 to 2% bounce rate. So that's very, very, very important because there's a lot of list builder. We'll sometimes work with a list builder company. We'll say, hey, we have a specific list. Can you get this for us? If we don't run it through a tool like Zero Bounce, some of these bounce rates are insanely high. And again, it's going to really, really, really negatively affect our deliverability, which is going to not just hurt that email campaign, but is going to hurt every single email that we're interacting with on our inbox.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So when you're talking about the systems, Stephen had asked about like which the system LinkedIn you say is good. I mean, do you use other providers like Seamless AI or I forget some of the other ones that I was just.
Apollo's a popular one. Seamless is a popular one. LinkedIn. And then there's just some data houses that will house several 100,000 or millions of contacts. The challenge, though, a lot of times with those is it's old data. Like I just spoke to one the other day. He has over 1 million contacts. But the last time he cleaned the data was, he said, probably a year ago, and most likely it was more like 2 years ago. So that data is old. A big thing for us, because we're sending well over 1 million emails every single month across a variety of customers, and it's all under the same SMTP server, which is essentially a highway to help you send these emails to the inbox so it doesn't land in spam. If we're sending emails with a high bounce rate, all of our inboxes are going to be at a threat of ending up in spam. So that's why tools like a Zero Bounce are so important. It's why getting good, clean lists are so important. But then there's other things. There's AI tools out there. Like every single person listening to this should have in their inbox a tool called Wormy.io.
What is it called?
It's called Wormy.io.
Wormy.
How do you spell that?
It's WARMY. All right, so Wormy.io, and anyone who's listening to this, I don't have the code off the top of my head. It's typically $200 a month is to use this tool because, as you can imagine, we spend a lot of money through this company because we have a lot of inboxes. We have a special code, and I'm happy to pass that on to your audience. So it'll chop the price in half. So anyone who wants that, we can maybe put in the show notes or something. But what that tool does is basically it mimics sending in inboxes. So it's going to send a bunch of fake emails from your account to other accounts. And the reason why that's important is because then it tricks, something like Gmail, so Google, into thinking this is a real inbox that's sending real emails and they're not just a spammer. So like when we work with a customer, we have a 3-week ramp up period before we start sending our mass emails for our customer. The main reason why is because it takes about 3 weeks for that tool. And we've tried plenty of tools out there. This is just the one that we found to be the best one. It takes about 3 weeks to warm up an inbox properly so that you can send mass emails at the velocity that people who are sending mass emails are going to be using it at.
And how many would you send out of one for a day?
through this company warn me, or like when we're sending mass emails?
When you're sending mass emails.
Depends. There's sometimes we'll send 100 a day. Like we're trying to go relatively slow. So 100 a day. So 3,000 unique emails in a month. But there's times we'll press send on, 50, 60,000 in a day and see what happens.
Yeah, because once you get sort of clipped by Google or some of the other big traffic cops, essentially, of the internet on email, you cook the whole, not just that email address, but you cook the whole company. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, I had somebody come to me. This was probably 6-7 months ago at this point. He was like, hey, I see you guys do stuff around cold email. Can you help me? He's like, we've been sending tens of thousands of emails a day for the past few weeks. And now not only are we getting no responses from those emails, but now my co-founder and I are sending proposals and they're going, no one's responding to us. And what we found is they were all ending up in spam. So anyone who's doing any mass outreach, please create a new domain. Please connect that domain to your main domain, but email off that cold email domain. Do not mass email off your main domain. It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
So a question on that: when you have some of these email enablers, like Monkey,
MailChimp.
MailChimp. I mean, do those emails get through? I mean, or do they also? I mean, I would think they'd also suffer from a high bounce rate.
We're going to get into this in a second, so I'm just going to. I want to try to preface, because what Adam does is not MailChimp. It's not Constant Contact. What he's doing is basically scripting off of, let's say, I'm not sure he uses Gmail or not, but he's scripting off of the Gmail, so it appears that the email is coming directly, that Adam sat there and typed me an email at 1:37 in the morning, and it went straight to me, and it looked like Adam spent the time. I want to talk about why this is so interesting, because the way Adam used his AI and the way he contacted me, it was very personal. He didn't use my name. That's one criticism I would have, Adam. You didn't use my name. But everything else was like spot on, because he said, about the fact that we had a commercial real estate company, that we had a podcast. And then he went to say, I also have a podcast and I can sympathize what you're trying to do. So you're probably sending that off a list of other podcasters, I would assume, Adam, that you're trying to get, using the podcasters to get your name out. And so you basically touched on my pain point, and you touched on, that you knew us, even though you really didn't. When I read that, it appears like you sat and typed that message, and it was very personalized to me. Very different from Constant Contact or MailChimp, which is a branding email. Completely different animal. So maybe you can get into that a little bit more, but we're going to talk about the sequencing in a minute. But if there's anything you want to add to what I said with Constant Contact or MailChimp versus what you did?
I'm not just blowing smoke. That was as well put as I've heard, because people will always bring up to me, Constant Contact or MailChimp, and you put it perfectly, Eric. There's a very big difference. When we receive a newsletter, MailChimp, Constant Contact, it's more of just a marketing. Hey, we have this thing coming up, but don't worry about responding to it. My emails that I send are very intentional. My call to action is basically kind of 15 minutes of your time. That's my ask. Where when we receive a MailChimp, we receive a Constant Contact newsletter, we just see it and we move it to the side and we keep on with our day. My emails are very intentional about, I want to get a phone call. I want to get a Zoom meeting set up. So it was really well put. And Eric, you're spot on. Like, the reason we didn't have a name personalized, because truthfully, the data that I was working with was terrible. So I had a cold email AI webinar earlier today, actually, and it was focused on real estate. And I was going through just old lists that I already bought. And one of the companies that I did outreach for, I bought a list and had my team basically scrape the entire database. So I have like few 100,000 contacts, all categorized by podcasts. And one of those categories was real estate. But the website that I basically bought the data from was not very good. So first names were terrible. So that's why I didn't even use first name, because it was such poor data. But I knew that you had a real estate podcast. So that was how I personalized. And I'm sure we'll get more into how we write emails. Some people go so over the top with personalization.
Oh,
it's like, dude, I don't care if you went to the same college as me, or I see that you are a founder at this company. I don't care. Show you value me. Show that you understand me by saying, hey, here's a problem you might want to have solved. Here's my solution. Do you want to talk about it? If not, hey, I'll back off.
It's funny because you mentioned that, and I used your email as an example in my sales meeting to talk to other agents. Now, because I tell them, you have to talk to the person that you're addressing. What is their pain point? And it should be very, very simple. You got a problem, I got a solution. You got a problem, I got a solution. That's it. If you're interested in having your problem solved, click on for a 10-minute consult or whatever, free, whatever it is. With real estate, it's no different. Like what you're trying to do is find that pain point and figure out who's in that. If you're working lists, for example, of people who, code enforcement, and people work code enforcement lists. So if you're working that code enforcement, you don't want to say, hey, I know you got trash in your yard, let me fix that trash problem. No, what you're saying is that, sometimes managing real estate can be a challenge. Sometimes there's issues with that. We can help unravel that burden for you. And it's very short. It's 2 or 3 sentences, maybe 4 sentences at the most. But we're going to get into this because in terms of your strategy, because I think it's very, very important. But I showed your email to my agents because I wanted them to see how good it was because it got my attention. Beyond getting the attention, I look at the tagline. What does it say in the email? These things are also they're so critical. And it's crazy for me because, I know my guys only listen to about 10% of what I say. You talk about bounce rate. My bounce rate, with my guys is pretty high. So, I'll tell them, look, keep it simple. You just, keep it simple. And they'll come back and say, hey, look at this email I'm going to send out. And it's 4 paragraphs. I'm like, dude, ain't nobody reading that. Nobody. You're trying to hit Eric Odoms of the world who are very busy. Didn't we just talk about Adam? Let's go back and look what Adam did. So, it is about getting this. So anyway, I don't want to steal all your thunder here, but why don't you kind of talk a little bit about what you do when you're setting these sequences up and what works and what doesn't. I can tell you one thing that for me, this thing, people texting me, I'll never do business with them. This is if I'm a framer, this is my hammer. And to get hit by people saying, can I buy your property? Can I buy your property? I'm not doing business with you, period. Not. So this is why we're having this conversation today, because the email for me is something that touches me. I'm able to do it on my time, not on your time.
Amen. Eric, I need to have you sharing more stuff because you're I'm again, not blowing smoke. It's rare. The stuff you are saying, you are articulating better than I have because it's so true. I remember when I first heard this, my previous tech startup I had was a college recruiting startup. And I remember asking the students, how would you want us to contact you? By phone or by email? Everyone said by email. And the reason why is exactly what you said, Eric. They said phone is personal. That's number one. And then number two, email, I can respond when I want to respond versus phone, either a call. It's I either have to respond now or never. In a text message, I get an anxiety I need to respond to that text message right away. Phones have become intrusive, it's personal. Email is still business. So that's a great point. Now, in terms of our outreach, our method is very simple. Everyone can follow this structure. When we write an email, we're sending our emails. It's the same type of structure. It's what is the purpose of your email? So it's PPSPA. What is the purpose of your email? One sentence on its own line. What is the problem that you solve? What is your solution? What is your social proof? And then what is your call to action? What's your ask? All of them should be really one sentence in its own paragraph. Purpose, problem, solution, social proof, and your call to action. And it needs to be short, sweet, and to the point. And my previous tech startup was a college recruiting startup. So we did a lot of surveying of college students. So we had a lot of this interesting data on Gen Z. One of the things I would talk about when I would do presentations on Gen Z was how Gen Zers have the attention span of a goldfish, about 8 seconds.
And they go around in circles.
Exactly. Right? And everybody in the audience would do what the three of us are doing right now. We're laughing. And then I would say, well, look, right now, when it comes to technology, we all have the attention span of a goldfish. I don't care if you're Gen Alpha, which is the 3 and 4 year olds. I don't care if you're Gen Z. I don't care if you're a baby boomer. It doesn't matter. We all have such a tight attention span, especially when it comes to email. So if you don't get right to the point, people are just going to see it. They're going to delete it. They're going to mark it as spam. They're going to move on. You got to get to them right away. Sending 3 or 4 paragraphs, all it does is it feeds our own ego, and it doesn't help the end user at all.
Yeah, I mean, we get these, emails, and I share this with my guys. The agents, they're doing the same thing as the investors. They're going out and trying to get the attention of owners of property. It's no different. So, we share some of these marketing tactics with them as well. And it's just amazing. I share with them the good and the bad. But it's amazing to me, these people that supposedly are professionals that, trying to doing investment and whatnot. And they're like, I went to the University of Florida and I have a degree in mechanical engineering, and I decided to switch over to do real estate investing. And when real estate investing, I've built this portfolio. And so I built this nobody gives a crap. Nobody cares, man. You have to think before you're typing that. Who are you talking to, and what is their pain point? Period. And make it as brief as possible. And your whole system of I don't see many emails like yours, Adam. Most of them are the latter. They're what I talk about before, these long paragraphs. Nobody gives a crap.
So we're talking about emails, but I think you also have a system, right? There's the initial email, and then do you have follow-ups and because just a lot falls through the cracks.
It's a great point. Absolutely. So let's say I press send on the email to you, Eric, and that was it. I would have only got 17% of the meetings as I would have gotten booked if I did my full follow-up sequence. So 83% of the meetings that we have booked for our customers, and we booked over 7,000 sales appointments at this point, come after that first email. So in our sequence, it's a 9-point sequence. So 1 main email, 8 follow-ups. It takes on average 4 emails to get 1 meeting booked. Real estate folks are probably better than almost any other profession at following up. So that's probably, that's for sure, it's not an issue for real estate people, but the power is in the follow-ups. Sales have come on that 8th and 9th email. And most of the time, if you do it right, there's a right way to do follow-ups and there's a wrong way to do follow-ups that'll piss people off. But if you do it the right way, the majority of people will appreciate your professional persistence versus getting pissed off because, you keep bugging them.
Yeah. And so where is that line between, persistence that's professional and bugging them? Because look, the same thing happens to me. I mean, because I'm trying to think about how I want to be approached. And, those folks who just pinging me every day, there's definitely a line. I don't know where that line is, but I know when it's crossed.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tight line. The biggest no-no is, can we please, for the love of God, stop getting mad at the other person for not responding. It is not their responsibility to respond to you. So that's number one. When people email me and they make me feel bad, for example, you clearly don't care about growing your business because you haven't responded to me. It's come on. That is so JV, and it's the wrong way to get a meeting booked versus, hey, just sending a quick follow-up. I know how busy you are. Are you interested in short value prop? If not, please let me know and I'll stop following up. Thanks so much, Adam. There's just a respectful way that any of us would want to be approached. And then there's a wrong way where you're just antagonizing and being rude. And look, you're going to catch people that woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Their kids have been sick. They were up all night. They were mad at them. Their husband or wife has been, frustrating them the last couple of days. Of course, stuff like that is going to happen, but that's in any marketing medium. When I did my real estate developments, I would do a lot of Facebook ads aside from email marketing. And I had people that were telling me, hey, I hope you get COVID. And then, my Facebook ad. And then, we would start going into back and forth. And then they would message me privately. They'd be like, hey, I'm sorry. I was just in a bad mood. And, you seem like a decent enough guy. So look, people, you can't control how people take it. You just have to do your best to be professionally persistent, be respectful, and always give them an opt-out. If they're not interested, you'll stop following up with them.
Yeah, and part of it is not, one of the things also that drives me crazy about real estate investors and how they solicit people, it's kind of like a dog in heat, dry humping you. There's no.
You're so poetic.
It's true. They don't really think about you. It's just let me buy your property. Come on, bro. How many times do you think people are getting hit with that? You have a list of non-owner occupied properties that you're working, or you're working code enforcement lists. They're getting killed. So what are you doing differently? How are you addressing the pain point? Why don't you talk a little bit about that when you're dealing with, like, from the real estate investor? How can you, because it's really about relationship, isn't it? You're trying to build that trust through the email. What are you doing rather than just dry humping them and say, oh, dude, I buy your property? Like, what would be some of that strategy?
Well, there's different approach that you could take. So one, if you're doing email, you might be doing it just differently, period. But I'm always trying to stay away from, okay, there's the red ocean. Like we talked about earlier, anyone who's listening who doesn't know red ocean versus blue ocean, basically red ocean is there's blood in the water. Everybody's in this one spot. Everyone's trying to go after that same, same fish to eat. The blue ocean, that's the clean spot. That's where nobody is. There's no blood in the water. You got your own free space right here. You're kind of playing in your own lane. And that's where I'm always trying to play. When everyone's zigging, how do I zag? So that's always where I try to focus and where you try to focus. So for example, like one of the emails that works exceptionally well for us. So in my tech startup, and this relates to real estate too, and I'll get to this in a second, but in my tech startup, I had 2 6-figure customers. They both came from something called an advice email, which I highly recommend anyone listening take advantage of this, steal it. It is a gold mine. It's something called an advice email, or 2 6-figure customers. We got MasterCard as a customer from cold emailing now their former CEO, Ajay Banga, who's now the president of World Bank, one of the busiest men in the world, cold email. From a cold email, he got on 3 phone calls with us. From that, he passed this to his CHRO and they bought. That all came from something called an advice email. Basically, hey, I'm building X, Y, and Z, and I'm looking to learn about A, B, and C. Would you be open to having a conversation about this? If you want to maximize the amount of meetings you can get, if you want to maximize, to your point, Eric, the amount of relationships you can develop, approach it this way. There's a saying, if you ask for money, you will get advice. If you ask for advice, you will get money.
I got to figure out a way to work this on Steven so I can shake a few shekels out of his pocket.
Yeah. You're going to have to try a lot harder than that.
I got to be a little smarter even after that lobotomy.
So exactly, but with this advice email, I bet you could get those shekels out of Steven. So we'll try. But it's a great hook that I recommend anybody have, where it's, hey, I'm looking to learn, like, what would you be looking for to sell your property? Like, what interests you in selling your property? I'm just here to learn and get your advice on why would you work with somebody like me? What would you be looking to get out of your property? How would you advise someone like me to work with more people like you that have amazing properties that I would like to do X, Y, and Z with? If you come at it with advice, you're going to get way more people that are open to meeting with you. And all you want is that face-to-face. Again, real estate people are exceptional when it comes to face-to-face. These are really intelligent EQ individuals. But how do we get as many of these face-to-face interactions? Because if that happens, good things are going to happen.
Yeah, I really like that, because the big issue is, how many times is this person getting hit with, hey, you want to sell your property? They're getting pounded with it. And so the idea of, like, being able to ask somebody, listen, I'm in this business. I've just gotten started. I know that you have 123 Main Street. If you were in my shoes, like, can you help me understand that? And that's sort of probably the only formula I had at picking up women in bars, Stephen, was just sort of like ask for advice, because my shtick didn't work just walking up to them. It's like, hey, where's a good place to eat? Would you mind telling me? And all of a sudden they're talking to you, as opposed to, hey, you let me buy you a drink? No. Beat it,
Eric,
loser.
Dude, that is phenomenal. Think about that. Think about it. Just vision ourselves in a bar, and then, a beautiful woman sitting at the bar, and every guy's going up and saying, being a drunk idiot, hey, you're beautiful. Can I buy you a drink? Next. Hey, you're beautiful. Can I buy you a drink? Next. Hey. And that's just constant, the flow. Versus that guy that comes up and he's more just approachable, asking for advice. It's how do I zig again when people are zagging? How do we not do what everybody else is doing? How do we just think a little bit differently? It's not rocket science. There's nothing crazy about it. There's nothing super brilliant about it other than human psychology and what do humans want to react with. If somebody asked any of you guys for an informational interview, I'm sure as long as it was framed correctly and you felt like they were sincere, you'd be like, of course. I want to give back. I want to help. Versus if someone's like, hey, can I have a job? You're probably going to shut down a lot sooner.
No doubt. With interns, college kids, we get solicited, and usually it's, can I get an internship and how much are you paying? You're an intern. You don't provide much value. Everything is going to have to be taught. But if someone's coming in and saying, I'm considering commercial real estate, I know that you're an expert in the field. Would you mind giving me 5 minutes of your time? I would like to understand a little bit more. Maybe I could buy you a cup of coffee about your business. And then I want to see if that's something that would really be a good fit for me. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for that.
Who wouldn't say yes to that?
Yeah, I mean, I because I was in that same situation when I'm 20 years old. I'm going, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I'm like a sponge trying to get information out of people because I don't know. And so it's it's the two approaches would help you get a lot further. So I really like that. That idea about asking for advice. It really kind of opens things up. And what you're trying to do, you're trying to buy a house, you're trying to buy an apartment, you're trying to do those things. But the reality is, you start with the relationship, and you can't start a relationship unless you break the ice appropriately. And that's kind of what these systems are about, right?
Yeah, what's the Trojan horse? What's going to get your foot in the door? And it's not about being insincere. It's not about asking for advice, then you get on the call and it's a hard sell. No. But when I'll do this for myself. Like, the main way I get customers is either from referrals or, people that have, seen me on LinkedIn, but mainly it's from us doing our own cold email outreach. And part of my cold email outreach is more sales focused emails. Hey, we do this thing. Would you be open to a call to discuss it? But another part of it is advice. Hey, we have 30 customers, we're growing, but we want to learn about how we can help bigger companies. And I'll get on calls with VPs of sales or chief revenue officers of larger companies. And about half the time, 5 minutes into it, they're like, hey, this is interesting. Like, how would this work within my company? So they invite you to the opportunity to sell it. And even if they don't, worst case, you have now a good relationship and you learn something. Versus a hard sales call, it's either you make the sale, maybe you have a relationship from it, or maybe they're like, you just never speak to them again, you don't learn anything. Advice calls, it's 100% a win whether you get the sale or you don't.
Adam, I know you have a mastermind that you're putting together, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we launched it about a month ago.
So is that potentially open to listeners of the show, or is that already closed?
No, we still have it open. And my promise from when we spoke, Eric, is I would just give anyone who's listening to the show the original price that we brought it to for our initial members of that mastermind, which is $250 a month, even though the pricing will be more expensive when people see it on my website. Anyone who's listening to the show will get grandfathered into that old pricing as a thank you to you guys.
Now let me ask you the question. Is that could be anybody that's in that mastermind, or are you putting together other real estate investors that they would share their experiences? I'm not sure.
It's a mixture of real estate investors and brokers and realtors we have sales leaders at companies like Spotify to entrepreneurs and salespeople. So it's a good mix of people. We do have different breakouts. So we have different office hours, some of which will be specific to real estate, some of which will be specific to like email sending or email writing. But yeah, the mastermind is right now it's a mixture of a lot of different types of people, business folks.
And how would people join if they're interested?
I'll put a link in here. I'll also put my email so anyone can reach out to me. If you do want to check it out, just send me an email at adam@eocworks.com. I'll send you more information. And then for anyone who does want to join, again, I'll have a special promo code for everybody so that they can get access to that original pricing.
Good stuff. Stephen?
So when we were talking to Adam a little earlier, I asked Adam, where are you located now? And Adam told me he's a digital nomad. At the moment, he's actually in Italy, but he's always somewhere. So I think with the mastermind and everything else, you're just able to connect with people wherever they are. And like I was thinking before, you are an office landlord's nightmare, because digital nomads are not what they had in mind when they invested in office real estate. But I think for the purposes of running your business and doing that, it's an awesome idea.
Yeah, no question about it. But
it's been fun.
Well, he's not completely a landlord's nightmare. He's probably using WeWork type of spaces, shared office spaces, right?
Well, right now, so my co-founder and I, we travel about half the year together. So when we get an Airbnb, that's our office. So I guess Airbnbs are happy that we use it as both our home and our office. So
okay, I take it back. He is a landlord, office landlord's nightmare.
Yeah, we're friends to the Airbnbs more. But I do shout out to WeWork, because during my first tech startup, I stayed there for, I think it was 4 years, and those guys were awesome. And I know they're going through their struggles now, but hopefully they can power their way through it.
Stephen,
Awesome. So if people, how can they reach you? What's the easiest website or contact information?
There's a website you can give us that they can surf. You already gave us the email contact, so.
Right.
Yep, it's just eocworks.com. So eocworks.com. My email is adam@eocworks.com. And through social media, I'm typically Adam I. Rosen. So LinkedIn, Instagram, that's where I'm most active.
Adam, appreciate it,
Awesome.
brother.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Stephen. I had a lot of fun hanging with you guys. I appreciate you having me.
And have some vino for me.
I always do.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, guys.
And that was Adam Rosen talking email sequence marketing. Stephen, what were your thoughts after our chat with Adam?
So Adam gave a really sensible, soft approach to getting through to people. It's, even in conversations sometimes, and when you're looking at your computer, you mentally switch off. So find a way to connect and find a way to be interesting to people. But the other thing he came back with persistence. It's not going to happen the first time. And so it's about having a system, not just taking a one-shot deal.
Yeah, that's right. And it's one thing I talk to my agents all the time. It's no different. They're speaking to the same people, whether they're trying to lease or sell their property or you're trying to buy their property. It's the same thing. But I tell my guys, 12 touches is what it takes on average to get someone to do business with you. And it's not about, let me sell your property, let me buy your property. That's not what this is about. You're trying to get their attention by showing empathy for their pain points and providing a solution. And so these email sequences could be set up depending on whether you're working on the investor side. Let's talk about whether there's zoning issues or it's compliance issues with their property or it's late mortgage payments or whatever. Coming up with a system that addresses the pain point of the person. There's a sequence of them, not just one. You're trying to form that relationship with them to say, you have a problem, I have a solution. Let's get together to talk about it.
Yeah.
I also love the advice comment he made. That's something I hadn't thought about, but it's the only way I really was able to pick up women in an environment where I was never the best looking guy in the room.
Yeah, it's just simple. Like, can you tell me how to meet a girl? And you'll learn a lot.
Yeah. Besides the cheesy comments about, buy you a drink or what's a nice girl like you do in a place like that would get me shelled 100% of the time. So, it resonated with me. The advice aspect of it is basically asking for advice to crack the ice, to break the barrier and start to have that human interaction with the person. So it's good advice.
Yeah.
Stephen, Adam was a great guest. Where can we find other great guests?
So we've got a whole library of terrific guests. Go to our website, www.investfloridashow.com. Also be sure to download the app and put it on your mobile device so that you can listen when you're in the gym or on the road.
Yep. Guys, as always, we appreciate the time that you invest with us each and every episode. And until next time, hasta la vista.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odom and Stephen Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show.